to this episode of Bright Ideas. I am Jess Duemig. No one likes it when I say that I am Jessica, so it throws people off. So, hi, I am Jess Duemig. I've been going by that for 15 years now. And I'm the host of Bright Ideas. I am joined today with Kate McKinnon, the first Kate McKinnon. And we're going to talk today about her path, her journey. We're trying to relate to real people here. As you all know, this is the first season where I'm talking to a lot of people in sports, second season of Bright Ideas, but we are going to jump right in here. Kate, how you doing?
I'm great. It is finally not 110 degrees in the Philly area, so I'm happy.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, I've the heat wave that's been going on is insane. I mean, I'm in Florida, so it's like normal, but it's also not normal. It's so hot here too. It's just
So hot.
insane. It was 102 when I got in my car yesterday, and I just wanted to be like, how does my car manage to cool my my car by 45 degrees? Like, cool.
Wow.
It's more like 30. I'll let the math for a minute, but
That's fair. I feel like you're only allowed to complain about one extreme season. So I am firmly a summer warm weather girl. So I cannot complain when it's 110 if I'm going to complain when it's 0 and snowing.
yeah, fair, fair. I like that. I like that outlook. There's people, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's
It's
right.
too hot or it's too cold. Like, go to California. Go sit
Yeah.
in 72 and sunny
Perfect.
all day. Have earthquakes and mudslides, but you do you. Like pick your poison. There's
That's right.
there's nowhere that I found that doesn't have some crazy weather thing where you're like there's tornadoes in the Midwest. There's lake effect in the upper Midwest, monsoons down south, heat,
Yeah. I mean,
earthquakes, tornadoes, blizzards, like what do you want?
that's right. That's right. So summertime, spring and summer, I look forward to all year. And so I do not ever complain if it's ridiculously hot because I don't feel like I'm entitled to it.
Yeah, fair enough. Entitlement. We'll probably get into that a little later, won't we? All right, so talk to us about your background. Tell us how you got to where you are. What path did you take? Who is Kate?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My background is very, I think, unique from an HR perspective. I actually started undergrad. I wanted to be a criminal profiler, and so I worked with adolescents with behavioral and psych disorders in the system for the first like 5.5 years after I got out of college. Um, Decided that maybe it wasn't the best place to have a career, even though the work that I was doing was super meaningful. So followed my dad's path. He was in sales my whole life. And he said, you don't stop talking and you build relationships. So you should probably make money doing that. So I am older. I got my first job out of the newspaper, classified, for car sales. And they said,
Okay.
that's okay. You can come over when your shift is done. So I went over, I got the job on the spot and absolutely fell in love with it. Loved sales, loved everything about it. It was super fun. So made a career out of sales for about 10 plus years. Worked for some big organizations, Verizon, ADP, and just consistently kept seeing a common thread in the sales organizations, which where you would have this incredibly successful, very talented seller. They would be promoted because they were super successful into a leadership role, and they would absolutely fail.
Yep.
And I was like, why do people not see that this is a completely different skill set? So I was really fascinated with this. I was going to go back to get my master's. I was originally going to go back to get my MBA. And there was a program at Penn State called your Master's of Leadership Development. And it was the first year that they were doing it. And I thought, this just sounds like exactly what I want to do. So I went back to grad school and was really disappointed to find that every single job that I was excited about was in HR. And if you know anything about salespeople and HR, they don't really,
Oil and water.
yeah, like my job was just to stay off the radar of any HR professional. Like that was, and I was discouraged because I thought, my gosh, like I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the Kate McKinnon in Office Party or whatever that like typical quintessential HR person. So I was actually at an event for continuing ed at Villanova and saw somebody speaking who was the head of Avis Europe at the time, the HR department. I'm sorry, he was the head of HR for Avis. And he was talking about HR in a way that I had never heard before, servant leadership driven, employee driven, and why that's actually good for business too. And so I asked him for a job. I went down after he was done speaking and I said, I want to work for you. I want to learn from you. Um, Fast forward a little bit, he created a position for me to manage the learning and development for North American and Canadian operations.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I relocated, went to work for Avis, and shortly after, he transitioned to the head of Avis Europe on the HR side. And our department was kind of dismantled. So I moved back to the Philly area, and that was my first introduction to healthcare.
Oh,
Joined a healthcare organization and built out their HR function to include training and development, all of the talent acquisition, and then all the HR support across the country. Um, I left to go with somebody who was with private equity, also on the healthcare side. And that was my first intro into private equity. And so private equity, healthcare, again, built out the HR function, and then COVID hit. And being in healthcare during COVID, as you can imagine, incredibly stressful. And
yeah.
on the HR side, really challenging to try to support all of these clinicians. And it was really taxing. So I
Right.
left, and that was my entry into the sports world. Had a lot of people reach out to me about the opportunity at Playfly Sports, an up and coming media marketing organization that was headquartered very close to where I lived. And I became their first head of HR for the organization. So at the time, they were about under 200 employees. And when I left, they were at 1,000. So
Wow.
super fast growth in 3.5 years. But just the best, most incredible experience I've ever had. Best people I've ever worked with, and became just completely hooked on the ability to take my love of sport. I am a rabid Philadelphia sports fan.
We
Um,
won't hold it against you. It's fine.
okay, it's okay. I like to say that who I am as a fan is not reflective of who I am as a professional.
It's impressive in the sports world. That's tough.
Yeah, especially Philly. But yeah, so that was my entry into sports. And so I left that organization in December to start my own practice, which I did in January, and it's been a whirlwind. So that's kind of how we arrived at Kate McKinnon HR Solutions, which is what I'm doing now.
That is amazing. I want to get into exactly what you're doing now, but I want to go back to something you said about sales and your dad and everything, because it's very interesting to me when people go into sales and they're like, I never expected to be in sales. And I'm like, yeah, me either. You want to know why? Because as far as anyone was concerned, you'd be going door to door selling vacuums.
So true.
Like that was sales when I mean you like when we were coming up,
Yeah.
that's what you like that's what that equated to. It wasn't what it is today, where I mean, for God's sake, like the internet wasn't really like it's barely a thing.
It
I mean,
wasn't.
no, and so it was like, well, what else is what, you're gonna sell used cars? You're gonna sell vacuums? Like, come on, man. Like,
So true.
and so a lot of everyone who says, "Oh, I was surprised," it's like, yeah, because we had this preconceived notion in our head about what sales was, and then you're like, wait a minute. I get to talk to people all day, which I was gonna do anyway. You're gonna pay me for it. And by the way, you're gonna pay me really, really well to do it. And I get to partake when I take clients out. I get to eat the steak too. I get to do this. It's like, all right. I mean, I could get behind this. Like I was started in media sales, and it's like digital media. And
Mhm.
I was like, I can't believe I like this. And I was like, why can you not believe that? Like who you know, there's people that can't do it who are like, oh, I never wanted to do sales. I was like, yeah, because you'd probably suck at it, like honestly. But you know,
Right.
you gotta play into your strengths, and some people just don't
Yeah.
have them. I'm not a bookkeeper. Like anyone
Same.
who's watched any of these episodes knows that very well. Like it's we talk about it all the time. I just don't want to do that and zero interest, but talking to people and all that, I mean, that's the way to go.
It's so much fun. And I think, back when I got into sales, I mean, it was in the, early 2000s. It wasn't, it wasn't anything that they had school for. You couldn't
Right.
go to school for sales. I mean, it was something you fell into. Same with recruiting at the time, like recruiting and talent acquisition. You don't meet a lot of people that got into that industry because they've always wanted to be a recruiter ever since they were a little kid. Same with
Right.
sales. but the skill set needed for those professions, if you're a really good executive recruiter, you look for people that fit the general skill set as opposed to looking for people that have had this like long-standing background in sales, like for entry level roles.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and that's another piece too, right? I mean, honestly, I have a hard time these days, and I mean, what is the job of a recruiter these days? Everyone is, and it sounds terrible. I'm being dense on purpose, right? Like everyone's applying online. Years ago, before everything was on LinkedIn and Monster and Indeed and whatever, like sure, fine. You sift through all the paper resumes printed on beautiful
Yes.
linen paper that you had to send out, and God forbid you folded it like it had to go in the long out. I mean, honestly, like these days, it's I literally in my move found my first resume ever. Why I had it, I don't know, but it
Yeah.
had like 2-inch margins so that
Oh,
I could
it was
maybe get to
specific. Oh, it
so that I
was,
could maybe get to a page.
it's bad. Yes. I remember vividly dropping off, like hand
Oh
delivering.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My name was written in papyrus. Just throwing that one. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah. It was
that's
fancy. I was
fancy.
going into business. It had to be fancy.
That's a fancy font.
Oh yes. Oh
Hmm.
yes. It
Yes, I
was
love that font.
very indicative of my very, very like that was my personality back then. And it's like, holy jeez,
Still a
Louis.
good font.
Say it again.
Still a good font.
Yeah, maybe not on a resume, but
Yeah.
sure, sure. Canva
Yeah.
says don't use it. So all hail Canva these days. I mean,
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
But no, it's just it's so funny. Like even what you were saying, that recruiters and sales, those people didn't come to career day. Half the people watching this are like, what's career day? Like,
Oh my gosh, that was how I got my first job with working with adolescents was a career day on college
yeah,
campus. I had a job before I left college. I mean,
mm,
it's just wild. It's so different, and that's one of the reasons why I love helping people find jobs now because it's so different. And you look at people who, maybe are their job is eliminated after 15,
yeah,
20 years, and they have no idea how to tackle the landscape. Veterans, former athletes, it's such a different world. And how do you get in front of people?
yeah,
That's really what it comes down to. Like your resume is just somebody just glances at it for 5 seconds and they're like, okay, they go into the yes pile or the no pile. The yes
hmm
pile, then we're going to review them and then we're going to call people back. So it's just to get you in the yes pile.
yeah. And it's it's interesting. I handed my resume to someone when I was first coming out of college, and she literally looks at me. She go, this was for an interview, because then you still also brought a paper copy of your
Oh,
resume with you. You don't do that anymore, apparently.
I still
Um,
do it.
I
I'm
bring it,
so
but I can't tell you the
hardwired.
last time I brought it out.
Yes, I never take it out, but
Yeah,
I'm like, it just every once in a while you'll get somebody that's like, do you have a copy of your resume? Which is, I mean, usually they're my age or older because that's just the reality
yeah,
of
that's funny.
stuff too.
Well, and I'll tell you, she looked at me, she goes, that's the biggest piece of fiction ever written. I was like, well, first of all, I'm obviously not going to work here because it's not fiction. And if that's your attitude, I didn't say this. Of course, this is all going on in my head,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
was like, who says that? And that was before they had 800 applicants,
yeah.
and I wish LinkedIn would put a thing where like the absolute things you must have, if you don't have them, you're not even allowed to submit.
Some of them do.
A couple of them,
Yeah,
but they automatic like you can still submit, but it automatically goes to wherever, the ether, I
yeah,
guess. But um yeah, it's just it's a different world today. So let's talk real quick let's go through your background again. So Verizon, but not like that was like your first foray in HR. So it wasn't like now where there's like three big players, four maybe, whatever. There was a
mhm,
lot back then, right? So not very regulated, but then you went to medical, super
yeah.
regulated,
Super regulated.
right? And then I missed something. Oh, you went into healthcare, super regulated.
Yep,
And then
yep.
you went into sports.
Mhm.
Wild, wild west.
Yes.
What attracted you? I know you talked a little bit about it, but how did you, I mean, Playfly, when you started there was, like you said, not what it is today.
No.
And I mean, now it's massive. I remember when it first came out, I was like, yeah, cool. How are you going to take on Learfield, right? Like, okay, Playfly and JMI, like,
Yeah.
Challenger Brands 101. And actually it was because there hadn't been anyone challenging Learfield for a long time. To go
Mhm.
5x in 3 years is pretty insane.
Yeah.
In the personnel side, which means the revenue side was way upwards of that.
Mhm.
But what drew you to Playfly?
I interestingly enough, as much as I've been a huge sports fan my whole life, it's always been a part of my life. I'm a terrible athlete, but I still played. I mean, I still actually was on teams and I loved the team component. And so the thought of combining my love of HR and the people piece of the business with something that personally I loved had never crossed my mind. I never considered looking for my role in the sports space. And it was almost a happy accident that I became involved when I met Mike Schreiber, I met David Connolly, I met Craig Sloan, I met all of the people that were running the business at the time. And it was just the consolidation of home team sports from the Fox side, the esports division, and then Outfront Media. And they were trying to figure out how do we get them all to feel as though they are play flyers, which was a term that we sort of coined when bringing the group together. I think that it was a really interesting change into the sports landscape, and it has, even though it is unregulated, it certainly has its own set of challenges. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was a really cool entry into the role, and it was really just the people that for the in the very beginning just made it the right opportunity. I mean, everybody that I met was just so welcoming and so driven and so excited about what they were building, and the vision for what it could be was I was just really excited about it. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to do this. And I remember having that conversation with Mike, and I said, I kind of want to just be here. Like, this is just a fun place to be. I'm excited about the opportunity, and the chance to work with you and learn from you was just too good to pass up. So it was an easy decision.
That's awesome. I think so many people put so much weight on, do you check all the boxes,
Yeah.
right? Do you have every single possible thing we could have ever thought to put into this position? And
Mhm.
honestly, some of the most successful people that I know, and
Mhm.
and I feel I myself fall into this box is, I'm lucky I do check a lot of boxes, but at the same time, the passionate person, the person who wants to be there, who gets excited, who is it doesn't view everything as a slog, like, oh, I gotta go do this, I gotta go do this.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that's the person who's going to be the most successful, whether they tick one box or all of them.
so
And
true.
and I would take that person, I think, over the person who is the perfect person on paper. Because, and here's my thought, and I'm curious for yours, you're actually in this role, but
Yeah,
I look at it as, look, I can teach you how to do the job. I can teach you how to use the tech. And chances are the way that we use the tech is not how you've ever used the tech before. Otherwise, we
yeah,
wouldn't be successful in ourselves if someone else could have done it exactly the same way.
yep.
I can't teach you to give a shit. I
So
can't teach you to be able to speak to other human beings in a, I use respectful, but not in like the commonplace respectful, but like I respect you, what you do, your experiences. I may not like you, but I still respect that you have this,
yeah,
whatever. I'll take that person any day over the person who's like, but you didn't carry the one. It's like, you
yeah,
knew what I meant, right? Like, thanks
100.
for killing our meeting. The Oxford comma, let's not have that, like, come on.
Yes.
So do you see that, and how does that kind of, and obviously feel free to disagree with me, but do you
Yeah.
see that as a challenge these days, like to find these people, or?
I think I always tell people to hire for enthusiasm and curiosity. You can't, can you teach it? I guess. But that is something that you naturally bring to the position. You naturally bring to the environment that you're in. And if you're enthusiastic and you're curious, you're going to contribute to the team.
Yeah.
And team contribution is, in my mind, one of the most important things when you're building a business, making sure that people are aligned to your vision and are excited about the same thing that you're excited about. Having somebody that wasn't in sports was an unconventional choice for a head of HR. And Mike even said that. But the reason that he hired me, and he still says this, is that I brought a different type of energy than the other HR professionals that he interviewed. And I think that's because, I've had a lot of industry experience that's been different. I haven't felt like I had to stay in one place because the type of HR that I practice, which is really figuring out the gray, um, it can be applied anywhere. It's not like it has to be so rigid to one thing or another. Now, there are certain things that I'm not good at. And I'm also perfectly comfortable saying, don't put me into a position where I have to be running payroll or analyzing the financials. That is just not my skill set. I can
Right.
hire incredibly talented people that do that much better than me. And they're just as passionate about that as I am about the culture building.
Yeah.
And I just believe in surrounding yourself with people that complement areas that you're not strong, not the need to get stronger in areas where you're just not naturally super talented. So I always just
Yeah.
focus on that. And I'm honest about it too.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like there was um, and you probably experienced this coming up through a world where you had to be as well-rounded as possible. And unfortunately, it's still a thing, right?
Yeah,
Like these kids today, get off my lawn. They have to be so stand out just to get into college, to get considered to get into
yeah,
colleges that, to be honest, were on my B list to 20 some odd years ago.
yeah,
Uh, and I really feel like they're setting them up for failure. A couple reasons for that, in my opinion, and I experienced this too. I'm not projecting or anything, but when you go into like I majored in advertising, and at the time they made you do copywriting, they made you do media planning, they made you do all this stuff, and there is no job in the world outside of running your own agency for the first year where you
right.
will ever do two of those, let alone all of them.
That's right.
But what they're doing is like I used to get an A in copywriting, so naturally I think I'm a copywriter. Like, oh, okay, except the copywriters like, go jump in a lake, you're not a copywriter. Like,
That's right.
go sit in an Excel sheet, Jess, please. Like, can I
Yeah,
write? Sure, I can write, but am I a copywriter? No.
yeah,
No, and never should I have been told that I was or that I might be. No
that's true.
interest in the creative side of it. Not that I'm not a creative person, but I don't want, was that line from Vars? I don't want your life. Like, I don't
Right,
want that. That's never going to be my strength.
right.
And, and then I think what happens is these like people, because of staffing shortages, they're like, hey, who can do this? And you're like, I guess I can. And now you're doing it all. And then you're burning out because you don't love any of it.
So true.
And that's a terrible place to be in, and it's happening earlier and earlier, unfortunately.
It is, and it's really specifically happening in roles where people are like the everything person, right? The catch-all for the company or the business or the department,
The
whatever.
utility player.
That's right. That's right. And it becomes really challenging because, and I think that this has happened specifically. I can speak to the HR world, but I can speak to a lot of other positions in the companies that I've worked for, but I'll just speak to HR. Since COVID, like I was in healthcare. We weren't trained how to console people that have lost somebody that died of COVID that they brought home from their job as a nurse in the
Yeah,
ICU. Like we weren't trained to help people understand what social distancing was and what quarantining was and what vaccines they had to have and do you have your card, do you not have your card, like how these wild expectations that understandably fell on the HR professionals just continued since COVID. So then it
yeah,
was, the illness part and having to monitor the workforce for health and wellness, which always was a part of HR, but it wasn't the core part of HR, especially if you weren't in like an OSHA driven environment, you really could, it was like, oh, is somebody, having surgery or did they hurt themselves? They can't come back to work. They have a flu. But this became 50% of our job was just
yeah,
monitoring people's wellness and taking reports of being close to people or being exposed and calling cleaners to come in and sanitize. And it just became this really challenging thing. And then you add the polarizing nature of COVID, the political piece of it as well. Then we're dealing with all of the political challenges and accommodations, and this person doesn't believe in wearing masks, but it's endangering the workforce, and then the George Floyd murder, and then all of the socio-economic situations and political situations that were sort of put on our lap to navigate. And that has kind of continued. And it still is a topic. I mean, COVID and
Yeah.
vaccines, and it still is something that HR carries. And so I think with HR professionals, you have a really unique look at what it looks like when you require people to operate completely outside their scope of expertise with no training, and then it just becomes a mandatory part of your job. It's really hard, and the
Yeah.
burnout is absolutely real.
Well, and I think too, I mean, COVID, the disease, COVID, the epidemic was that shift that you just talked about for the actual functionality of HR. But then you have years upon years of you can't work from home because our company can't work from, like, it's not
Right.
possible. That changed literally in a day.
It certainly did. And the
So,
return to work and all of the things around that, and
yeah,
balancing employee expectations, and trying to help companies understand that if you are requiring return to work, it should be performance based. If somebody can perform their job and can perform it in a way that is sustainable and you view them as successful, why are we pulling them back into an office? Why
right.
can't we let them dictate where they work? If somebody
Yeah,
is not doing well, I think certainly could be part of a performance plan that you need to come into the office and have that face time. But
yeah,
to sit in an office and be on Zoom calls all day, it, what are we doing? Like,
right.
you're taking time away from people.
Yeah. Well, and I mean the enlightenment of people being able to work from home, I think the work-life balance came back. It
Yeah.
shifted also a massive mentality, right?
Mhm.
I remember pre-COVID, I would commute 45 minutes to work because that's what you did,
That's
right?
right.
That's you lived where you wanted to live, you worked where you could get a job where you wanted to work, and
Yep.
you made up the difference in the car or the train or the whatever, and that
Yep.
was fine. That was the way it was. There
Acceptable.
was no Instagram telling me, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this. This is not right."
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm like, man, I gotta be like within 5 minutes of work. And I'm like, well, like, because now,
Wow.
I'm in the market looking for a full-time thing. And I'm like, I don't want to live there. So I'm not going to work there.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it's
It
like,
actually shrinks the company's talent pool significantly.
yeah,
And it also really challenges women in the workplace, who are oftentimes the fallback caregiver if both houses are working parents. It often challenges people that are disadvantaged, that don't have reliable transportation. I mean, there are
yeah,
so many challenges that come with this forced return to work. And it's just this very, very, in my opinion, kind of outdated. In the sports world, I understand some of it, right? Because we had that at Playfly.
totally.
When we have people on college campuses, they're in the office 5 days a week. I mean, it's 7 days a week sometimes. It's not,
Yeah,
they have to be there physically. And so I
right,
think that there's also needs to be a recognition for the type of job and role that you have in an organization, and the necessity of being in person all the time. Um,
right,
if it does require in-person work, then there needs to be some value tied to that. Why are we in person? Are we truly collaborating? Do we have this space where it's a welcoming, wonderful space to come to work, where we can lean on each other and we can share ideas? And that's the purpose of being together in person.
right.
Not this micromanagement, I want to watch what you're doing all day long. Nobody has time for that anymore anyway. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, and I think too it shines a light on comp time, right? And in sports
Right.
is a tough one because there is a full day of work, depending on your role, of course,
Mhm.
but then there's also a full night of work on game days and a full
So
Saturday
true.
of work,
Yep.
and if I don't have a meeting on a Tuesday, why can't I have that day off since I just gave you a 12-hour football day that
That's
wasn't
right.
fun? And I
That's
think
right.
a lot of people think sports is glamorized, and it's sports is just as much a business as anything else. Yeah, do
Right.
you get to do cool shit? Yeah, you really do. But
Yep.
you don't go into sports because you're a sports fan, because it kills your fandom.
It
Like,
is very I talk to so many people that are like, all I want to do is get into sports. Like I totally understand why.
Yeah.
It is a fun place to live, breathe, do nothing but think about and work in the sports space all day, every day.
Yeah.
It is constant and it is hard. And it's
Yeah.
not, there are glamorous aspects of it, but it is hard, hard, hard work. I remember when
Yeah.
I first got the job thinking, this is going to be amazing. I mean, from an HR perspective, I always look to hire athletes, coaches, volunteers, hard driving, dedicated, really competitive people. And I'm coming into an organization that's full of these people. Like, what is
Hmm.
better than that?
Yeah.
That has its own set of really tough challenges.
It does.
Wonderful, wonderful people. The best people I ever worked with in my entire career were and have been in the sports space, hands down,
Yeah.
but not easy to manage.
Mm-mm. They're alphas. And when you
All
get a
of
lot of alphas in a room, guess what? Their people will become betas or whatever else the alphabet goes, like
that's right.
and it's a whole different world. I think that people don't realize that you can never look at sports the same way again,
No,
right?
I
As a PA
love basketball.
announcer, say it again.
I love.
Yeah, it is, but
Yeah,
I think here's my take on it though, is it's kind of like I equate it to living in Florida, right? I live where people vacation. Right?
fair.
I work where
Yep.
people let off their steam, where they get entertainment. So if
Mm,
I'm the person who loves sports and that used to be my way to get entertainment, it's no longer checking that box for me. So my balance, though it feels like it'll be a balanced life because do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Cool. Right. Tell me that when we're running 3 minutes behind on pregame and ESPN's in my ear saying, if you put the anthem on, you're fired. Like, I mean,
right. Yeah,
it really is that. And it's like, cool. But then I go to the Super Bowl and I hear the song and I don't see the planes and I'm like, someone's getting fired. And I can't even enjoy it because I
that's
know,
true.
and again, it's enjoyment is probably a little dramatic, but it's different. But every job has it, right? If
It's
you're a
true.
banker, you're never going to watch TV and see the commercial. You're not like, that's bullshit. Like, well, you can't
It's a
get that
good
interest
point.
rate. Everything's got its thing. It's just different.
Yeah, I honestly never really even considered that the fandom loss, like that fandom experience loss, being in the sports space can be really real, especially taking away something that maybe you just enjoyed for pleasure at one point. I think for me, I have so much more appreciation for sports than I did before I was working in sports. I
Hmm.
always loved it. I always watched it. I went to games. I mean, just ridiculous. But now that I'm in the sports space, the effort and the work that it takes to make things come together is like the fact that people are in a stadium and probably nobody is thinking about how much it took for this all to come together and they're just enjoying their experience is like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Like everything, every little minute thing. And I actually went to an event and I won't say which one it was the other day. And I was excited to go. I knew some of the people that were going to be there, and it wasn't operated in the same way that it normally would have been. The people that I know weren't operating it. And oh my God,
Yeah.
it was a train wreck. I mean, it was so disorganized. You couldn't find any passes. You didn't know where you were supposed to go. Nobody knew where the tents were. Nobody, like, it was chaos. Now,
Yep.
I'm sure other people that were there were like, this is a fun game. I could not stop thinking, oh my gosh, this is just a mess. It's just a mess. But that's to me, I'm like, wow, that really speaks to the people that I know that make sure it's not that way when they're involved.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
both sides of the same coin.
It really is. And I think it's and again, just like anything else, when I first got into it, I remember distinctly what like hooked me, like hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I was an intern, I was in college, I was an intern in game presentation, which is now what I love. Like that's my passion. I had a professor say, "What would you do for free?" Like I don't want to do it for free, but if I had to do something, if I won the lottery, what would I go do? Game presentation, scripting and putting a show on the field. 100%.
Really?
Love it. Love the
Oh, I love
pressure,
that.
love the crazy. Don't mind that I can never be a fan again. Uh, and I say that
Oh,
somewhat
yeah.
facetiously, but also because A, I'm cheap, and B, I refuse to sit in the 300 level anymore.
You
Like
can't.
you're
That's
jaded. Like I can, like it's sideline or bust. Like
a
I mean,
hundred
come on.
percent. Yeah,
Like
it's
with them, absolutely not.
it's bad. When I have to stand in line to get in, I'm like, what is happening? Why
Yeah.
am I here?
Yeah. And they're
No,
like,
that's
oh,
bad.
bag policy. I'm like, I work. Oh, crap. I'm not on job today. Like,
The amount of
oh,
times I've said, where's my team? And I'm like, I don't work there anymore. Like and
right.
I love them and they're amazing, but it's like very hard to separate like your actual like persona from it.
Totally. Well,
Mhm.
it becomes your persona. Like people
Yes.
come. My friend was like, "Hey, can you produce my wedding?" I'm like, "Can I what?" She's like, "Just like do what you do for football, but for my wedding." I was like, "Oh, sure." And she asked me that like 10 minutes before the ceremony. I was like, "All right, what do you want? Like, what's the timing on this?" She's like, "I just don't want this to happen while this happens." I'm like, "Done." And we're like, "All right, ready? Go. Whatever, whatever. All right." And she's like,
Oh,
"That is amazing." I was like, "Bro." Like it was like 5 seconds, but no, so
that's
the thing that got me was game kicks off, right? And you're in pregame went great or didn't, it doesn't matter. It's over,
yep.
right? I walk out and I was at USF when USF was like the top, right? As far as we knew, we were number 2 in the country and walk out of the tunnel and it was right as something happened. Everyone's up and cheering and I was like, "Holy shit. Like this is it. Bigger than
Oh,
myself. Like I
wow.
had some part in making 60,000 or whatever it was, felt like it. People just enjoy themselves in that exact moment. Like I wasn't on the field throwing the football, it didn't matter. But they
Yeah.
were there, they got there, they were in their seats, not in a line or whatever.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, okay, I could do this for, like okay, fine, I'll do it.
Forever.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That feeling, what's so interesting is that like I think if you talk to anybody that's in sport, not anybody, but like most people, um, they can relate to that feeling. And that's
Hmm.
the thing that you don't get with other jobs. You just
Yeah.
don't. That like looking around and seeing this huge number of people all together,
Yeah.
all sometimes not rooting for the same thing, but all rooting for something. And it was the reason that I wanted to be on teams when I was younger. I was never good. I played softball, I played soccer, I played field hockey, I played all the things, but poorly at best. And like was perfectly happy sitting on the bench rooting for my mates. Like that environment magnified at like a pro level, college level is just something that it's indescribable. It's
Yeah.
just a feeling. And when you're part of it in whatever way, shape, or form you're a part of it, it really it brings sort of like what you love. It has a purpose.
Yeah.
Um, and it just people are happy.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
again,
so
you're
cool.
part of how people are
Yeah.
work-life balancing or
Yes.
having family time or being with people they don't know outside of those season tickets where they're there like it's the family, a summer camp, you know.
Yep. Yep.
It's cool. It's cool and that's the thing.
Mhm.
And I think it ticks a lot of boxes for people in terms of that instant gratification.
Yes.
Instant-ish, right? Every
Mhm.
game is a new opportunity. Like
Mhm.
last game doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Forget about it. If the anthem was late or ran long or was slow or the speakers went out, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because now we get a chance to fix it or do
Yeah.
it better or whatever or do it
Constant
exactly the same
improvement.
again because it was perfect. You know, like
Yes.
perfect. Oh God, said it. I'm in trouble. You know, like it didn't rain. Like yay.
Well, we know what you mean.
Yeah. Um, but let's get into so you went off on your own, you left
I did.
Playfly, you talk about that. What are you doing? Like what is your core now? Because you've done so
Yeah.
much different similar umbrella, different things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What did you pick to include?
So, I'm still in the process of. I think I was very clear on what I was including, and I've had so many people ask me if I would do other things. So I was like, yeah, yeah, we'll see what
Sure.
we'll see what works. I don't mind helping in certain areas. So the core is really around the organizational side and the individual side. So organizations, full employee life cycle work. So if a company's having trouble with talent acquisition, or they're struggling with their recruiting team to bring in and retain their top talent, I can help with that. Leadership development. All of my clients right now are all leadership development clients, all middle management. How do we get the skills to help them relate to their teams better? How do we help them not push down, but actually empower their teams? Delegation work, a lot of work around diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. So, we want to develop a women's leadership program. We're not really sure how to do it right now, especially in the climate that we have. How can we still pour into people that we think need to be poured into in a way that satisfies all of the things that are going on in the environment that we have? So how do we make it a safe space, but also incorporate and include everybody in the organization, and which they should be anyway, right? Because you still need allies, you still need people that empower, you still need that as well. So how are people navigating? Also working a lot with early stage companies, who want HR, want the support, or have a people problem and aren't really sure what to do.
Mhm.
And then on the individual coaching side, career transition, personal branding, leadership development. And then I do a ton of work with early grads. So people that have
Nice.
graduated college that have no idea how to get the job that they want. Oftentimes they get to an organization, it doesn't meet their expectations. They don't know how to take control of their career. Companies aren't happy with the talent that's being brought in because they feel like they're entitled, or, all of these things. Like, how do we work better together with our new grads? And how do we empower them to learn the skills that candidly they're not learning in college, they're not learning in high school, which
Yeah.
is how do you actually make an impact in the workplace? And also just this like normalizing disappointment. Like, not everybody's going to listen to everything you say, and that's
Right.
okay. And so coaching in that context as well.
Let me ask you a question, aside from all the other ones. But do, is this new? Like, because I find myself asking, and it's generational. Like, I know that, but I don't remember these being issues when I started out. Was my like me or my generation, was the expectation different? Is it social media? Is it everyone thinks they're amazing because their parents have been telling them that since they were born? Is it all of the above? Like, because I don't remember there. Is it just a conversation now that we were just ignorant to? I don't remember ever having to look, or I never looked around and said, "Oh, I wish there were more X, Y, or Z here," or "Oh my God, I'm surprised there aren't more X, Y, or Z," and insert
Yeah.
whatever you want into that.
Mhm.
Did we not think about it? Was it not talked about, so we didn't know to think about it? Like, what is going on?
I think that there's so many things and they all kind of compound each other. I think on the diversity piece, I think there was a recognition, especially in the sports landscape, and I think that this happened really like during COVID, during George Floyd, like this real recognition that on the business side of sport, it's very non-diverse for the most part. And so how do we get not necessarily more of XYZ person, but how do we get diversity of thought? It's a competitive advantage. And so having
Mm,
people from different backgrounds that can relate to different people is only going to improve your business. And so a lot of push came for sensitivity training, diversity, equity, inclusion training. And so I think that that has ramped up since COVID, since George Floyd.
hmm.
But it's always been there. I've always worked on the diversity. When I was with Avis, we worked with military veterans, and I do work with veterans now. How do you take your skill set and translate it into the civilian workspace? And
Hmm.
I think that it's fear-based. A lot of times why people don't hire veterans is this fear of bringing somebody in that maybe doesn't acclimate as well or needs additional attention. And so how do we provide them with the opportunity, but also give them a safe space to be themselves? And so I think the work
Yeah.
has been done, but it's been amplified more as a result of social media. Then you take the college students who are not getting any type of actual work they are
Yeah.
getting training on how to do a job once they get a job, but they're not getting any type of education around how do you interview, how do you job search, how do you ensure that
Yeah.
you're asking the right questions. Um, And I think that this comes from a lot of different things, but I think all of the things that you laid out, this sort of entitlement generational thing is certainly there, but I don't think it's as nefarious as people like talk about it. Every generation that comes into the workforce, people that are older are like, oh, this generation today. Like it was the
Mm-hmm.
case with my generation. I mean, I was born in 77, so I'm going to be 48 this year. So a lot of people, like I was taught that you go to work, you put your head down, you do what you're told, and you go home. Like,
Right.
period. You work harder than everybody else around you, and that's how you advance. You don't ask for a promotion. Somebody will tap you on the shoulder and say, you've done all that you can do. Let's move you to the next role. That's just not the reality anymore. And
Right.
so I think it's teaching the different generations how to work well together and appreciate the positive things that this generation does bring to the table. They are much more socially aware. They are much more transparent with one another, which is good or bad for your business. If
Yeah.
you don't treat people well in your organization, every single person will know because of social media.
Yeah.
So, and the opposite is also true. And so how do you tap into the strengths of these generations that are coming out of college that have a skill set that my age and older does not have? We can
Right.
learn it, but we didn't grow up in it.
Right.
And so how do we tap into that? But it's a two-way street. So how do students coming out of college understand that they're working with a lot of generations and they need to work to change their communication style to adapt as well? So it's like
Yeah.
there's a meet in the middle that needs to happen, but right now it's just so far apart that my goal is to start to provide some tools to help close that gap.
I love that because even when you started off that statement was it's diversity of thought, I've never taken diversity to mean diversity of thought. Like when you said I was like, "Oh yeah, that
Oh,
makes
yeah.
sense." But I feel like there is a very vocal minority that
Hmm.
is living and breathing on all the social media platforms and on any sort of conversation
Hmm.
that is saying diversity means one thing and that's all anyone recognizes it as. I think it's and without getting into the politics, I think that there was a disservice in calling the DEI movement the DEI movement because certain generations saw it as just another word for affirmative action,
Yeah,
another
make it
group
feel
of people.
threatening.
Yeah.
It
And
threatens.
territorial
Yep.
and all this. And then the only news you see, and you referred to it a couple of times as the George Floyd thing, that's what kicked a lot of it conversation to the top of the
Yeah,
thing. But even that, I mean, everything's polarizing.
it
And
is.
I talk a lot about this with people who don't, I saw how the sausage was made in digital advertising and
Mhm.
algorithms and all that,
Yeah,
right?
oh, yeah.
No matter what you think you are telling the internet you like or don't like, you're going to see the opposite because it will inspire you to engage. Engagement is key.
That's
The
right.
more you engage, the more money they make. So
That's
whether
right.
you're pissed off or happy, they don't care. The
It-
proverbial they.
It's so true. And always keep in mind, and I think this is really important, and it goes to what you're saying, is that money is made on conflict, just in general. Like conflict creates something.
Yeah.
And so I really think that the understanding of what diversity is, I think, do people think that it's swung too far one direction or the other direction? Yes, I'm sure.
Half the
I
people
hear it.
do.
I hear it all
The
the
other
time.
half don't. Yeah,
I
it's
hear it all the time. The bottom line is that it is good for companies to have a diverse workforce. People that come from different backgrounds, people that look at things differently, people that buy things differently, people that respond to things differently. It helps with the creative process. It helps with sales. It helps with attraction of candidates. There's so many positives. But even when I was creating and led diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging groups, which I did at Playfly very successfully, um, I always looked at the D, and this is unpopular sometimes, as the last part of the puzzle. The D, the actual diversity, is a very easy metric to change. All you have to do is go out and hire diverse people.
right.
It's super easy. The problem is, are you creating an environment where people feel they can be their best selves, where they're promoted, where their ideas are listened to and heard, where they feel a sense of belonging and inclusion in the organization? Then you focus on getting those voices to the table, Because if you don't have an environment that cultivates a feeling that everybody matters and everybody's voice matters, you're not going to keep the diverse population that you've hired. So that
Right.
really is kind of the last piece. And it's diversity of thought, it's diversity in all ways.
Yeah.
Just
I it is, and it's challenging. I think you showcased it just right there, saying, yeah, everybody's thought matters, but hey, not everything you say matters, right? Like
so
everyone's not
true.
going to listen to everything you say. The fact that you're saying it is important,
A
right? The
hundred
fact that you
percent.
feel
Yeah,
comfortable to say it, great.
that's
They're
right.
not all gems, babe. They're not all gems,
Nope.
right? There
Absolutely.
is.
As a matter of fact, very few are.
Yeah.
And so there's the difference between giving your opinion, which I think is critically important that you hear people's feedback, but also recognizing that you giving your feedback is an act of giving back to the company.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that go into making decisions. Your
Right.
feedback, your one thing isn't necessarily going to change the course of the company. And that's where I talk about this normalizing disappointment.
Yeah.
Like not everything you say is genius speak, right? Like thank you for your opinion. Love it. Definitely will put it in the opinion box, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be acted upon all the time.
Right. And the opposite side of that, and this is why I personally love brainstorming. And I'll always say I'm not the idea person, but I can take your idea to the next level.
That's super
It's
impressive.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun because I'm not going to be the first one to throw it out, but something you say might be like, wait a minute.
Spark. Yep.
Like connect. Like by the time we're done, like it's a freaking constellation, but
That's
that
right.
one star was where it started.
Yeah. And it might be from the most quiet person in the room. They just all of a
Totally.
sudden drop a gem. Like you just
Yeah.
don't know. And so allowing that environment where people feel like they can contribute, whether it's like dropping a thing in a box or an online thing or talking to
Yeah.
somebody, like it does matter, right? Because if your voice isn't heard, and especially with this generation, if they feel as though their voice isn't being heard, they're not staying.
No.
They're not.
No.
So yeah,
It's
it's
a tough
interesting.
world.
It's definitely not easy.
No. Well, I love what you're doing. I think it's so important. And I think that it's really there are generations who are told you just keep climbing that ladder, kid. Like that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And it's like, but I hate that ladder. Like the bottom of that ladder is great. I love that part. And I love the top, the tippy top, but middle management, absolutely. I'm not telling someone that they can't go to grandma's funeral because we have a basketball game. Like we are
That's
not
right.
like, I mean, an
Yeah,
insert scenario here, but like I never wanted to be the one to say no, you can't have that day off because I know that they put in all the work. And so for me, management, like management in the sense of management, absolutely not. Management in the sense of leadership, 1,000,000%.
totally different skill set too.
Completely.
And it pulls from a different place for people, and not everybody's good at both of those things.
Very few are even close
Right.
on either one.
Right.
And I think we have to normalize the fact that guess what? You don't have to matriculate to be worth something.
Oh my
Like
gosh, that
you
is,
need people at
yeah,
every level of that. And honestly, look, I always valued the climber just as much as the person who is like fine.
steady,
If
steady, and
you only ever want to do that job for the rest of your career, if you're good, I'm good. Like that way I don't
a
have to
100%.
rehire you a
You
hundred
can't
times.
run a company with only climbers. And
No.
that's a challenge in sports too, is that the people that are given the value and the credibility are the people that are just so hard driving that don't think about anything other than XYZ.
Hmm.
But the people that keep your company running are the constants, the people
Yeah.
that come in, the entry level people, the data entry people that are entering in your orders, that are making sure that things are happening the way that you say they're going to happen when you sell a package. Like those are
Right.
the people that keep your company running. And so understanding that is also critically important for the executive suite because you can't run a company with all superstars.
Right.
Possible.
No, you absolutely can't.
Yeah.
You can't run anything. It doesn't
Right.
work. Any scenario
No
you put
team,
that in, it doesn't work.
basketball team, you
Nope.
can't all be LeBron James, or you would
Nope.
have a really, really challenging game.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to like understanding the role that you play on that team. And if you're not okay with it, that's fine.
Mhm.
But being aware of that and the fact that you're not okay with it and what that means for you. You're
Mhm.
more than welcome to be not okay with whatever you don't want to be okay with. Whether or not there's a place for you here and now,
That's right.
that's in your hands because either suck it up, Buttercup, or good luck. I'll write you a good recommendation. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those, I
There
don't think.
isn't. No, there
You
isn't.
know?
And that's a large part of my book too, is really how to define your career and how to recognize that, moving up can mean moving laterally, could mean broadening your skill set, could mean taking a step back to learn a new skill, to rise in that skill. So there's so many
Yeah.
different ways to create your career path, and it's never just
Yeah.
straight up a
It's
ladder.
never straight up.
No,
No.
nope.
Oh, wow. Can you believe we've been talking for like 50 minutes right now?
I actually can't.
I feel like we could go on forever and ever. That's
Yeah, it's
this is the
bad.
part that I love is when in it, and this is what I've seen across this season of Bright Ideas is the people that I'm talking to are worth talking to. Like it's so fun, the time flies, it's such good information. And it's I think I have to do season 3 that's gonna just be everyone from season 2 with an update. Like, like
Update. Yes, I
update,
love it.
yeah, live updates. I think we'll do that maybe coming up here in a couple weeks or
I
whatever. Maybe
love
when
that.
it's not summer and hot and everyone's tired and on
Yeah.
vacation.
Yeah, it's harder.
Yeah, well, Kate, this has been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see your business take off, and obviously anything I can do. Talk to us about who should contact you and why.
Anybody should contact me. If I can't help, I can give you somebody that can help. So if you're struggling individually with, getting footing in your career, moving up, right after graduation, transitioning, happy to help. And if you're an organization that needs people centric support, I can help. Do not contact me for payroll. You'll be very disappointed. But
Hi, I need a financial analyst,
but
please.
anything else, but I can give you some great people that can help. So I
I love
welcome
it.
all connections. I don't think anything is not worthwhile.
Love it. Well, we'll make sure that all your contact information is in the write-up and edited into the video. Um, Everybody, this is Kate McKinnon. Thank you, Kate. And thank you for tuning in to Bright Ideas. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Jess.